WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. An Odyssey station. This is Investor Schooling Live with your host, Larry Steinhouse, CEO of Investor Schooling.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to Investor Schooling Live. Investor Schooling Live is coming to you from the Investor Schooling Studios. Hey, I'm Larry Steinhouse and I am the CEO of Investor Schooling. Get ready to learn real estate investing and stock options trading and so many more things about money I bet you didn't even know. Hey, you can call me anytime during the show with your questions at 855-939-1137. That's 855-939-1137. Hey, that's right. It's a live program, so you can call anytime during the show. We'll take your calls. Don't worry about what we're talking about. We'll take your calls and answer your question. At Investor Schooling, we teach real estate investing, stock options trading, how to save money in taxes, and how to be financially free. And we even give you the motivation to make money work for you instead of you working for money. Investor Schooling is located in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, right off the Newtown Bypass, serving the New Jersey and Greater Philadelphia areas in a real brick-and-mortar building. Our students are also located in several states with our exclusive web access to our classes and seminars. Hey, get ready to learn this business, the business of entrepreneurship, real estate investing, stock options trading, and you'll learn it from those who do it every day. Welcome to Investor Schooling Live. I am your friendly neighborhood financial expert, and my name is Larry Steinhouse. And I am here, actually, with someone who works for us. I have Dr. Deb Anderson. How cool is that? I just love that name, Dr. Deb Anderson. What are you a doctor of, by the way?
I'm a doctor of instructional design, but the best way to think about it is educational engineer, because I stole that off somebody else, and it sounds so much better, and people actually understand that better. So there you go.
So you see that? We have an educational engineer who works for us, so we actually know what we're doing. If we have somebody who has a PhD. She went to more college. Well, you went to more college probably in one day than I went to my entire life.
I took the long route to go to school, but I did, I got my associates, I got my bachelor's, I got my master's, and I got my PhD, so I did the long way around.
So what's that, 6 years?
No, it was more than that.
How many years?
So 3 there, five, and 8, about 8 years.
8 years? Okay.
About 8 years.
So you want to know how much college I went to?
1 semester.
I didn't even make it to the first semester.
Why am I not surprised?
Could you imagine me trying to learn from somebody?
I can't. I figured you would argue with everybody who's up.
Do you want to hear a funny story? I actually did.
I'm not surprised.
I actually went to school for electronics. I really liked electronics, as you can tell. I mean, we're sitting in a studio that I built, right? So did I need to go to college to build a studio? Clearly not. but I remember arguing with the electronics instructor about his theories and telling that his theories were wrong. And when he gave it some thought, he goes, I think you're right. It was pretty funny.
And then he failed you for pointing something out, right?
No, he actually gave me an A+.
Oh, that's good.
It was the only class I ever got an A+ in, though.
There you go.
Was electronics. But it's kind of funny. But the reason you're here is you are actually the tax lien queen. We nicknamed you the tax lien queen about a year, maybe a year and a half ago.
Yeah, about a year ago.
Because you know everything about tax liens. So Dr. Deb teaches stuff at Investor Schooling, and she teaches lots of cool stuff. And I am not an expert on everything.
Surprisingly,
I was
going to say everybody thinks you are.
But every once in a while, there's something I don't really know, and I don't know that well. And tax liens, I do not know that well.
So you know what?
Deb is the tax lien queen.
You know what I thought was great? Like, it was one of my awesome moments from working here is that one time you called me up and said, somebody's trying to sell me liens. Can you look at this for me? And I'm reading through all these texts, and I'm like, this is such a scam. And they kept saying something about a notary. And I'm like,
right.
Who cares about the notary? That has nothing to do with anything. And it was great because I remember going back home, and then I'm like, Larry's asking me for a question about something he doesn't know anything about. So it was like aha moment. It was like a really cool moment for me. So that was really cool.
So you also started out as a student, which is kind of cool because, by the way, if you guys have been paying attention to this show for a long time, you know that everyone who works here started out as a student, except I guess Mike Hyper, who is our engineer, who's our in-house engineer, but we really didn't need him to know anything about real estate at all. We really need him to know about things like cameras and microphones and other things like that. And he's actually, if you've seen any of the stuff that we're doing online, if you're watching this show online right now, he's actually. Can you put the camera on yourself? I don't even know if you can. No, I think you can. I don't think we have a camera facing that direction right now.
I don't know if he'd want to be on camera because he's kind of a shyer guy anyway.
He
so.
is kind of shy.
He's
But
a shy
he's
guy.
the only one who didn't come to us as a student, so that's kind of interesting too. But you came to us as a student. We actually met, what, 3 years ago? At a meetup group, I think?
At a meetup, yeah, over at Chambers 19, way
Yeah.
back when, yeah. So Larry says I came in with an attitude, which is totally not true. Because I came
because she knew everything about tax liens.
No.
And when she started asking me stuff about tax liens, I didn't know the answers.
Why
When I
didn't-
started asking her questions about how she was buying or selling her properties,
I answered wrong. But I did come in with an attitude. I remember going and saying, hey, saying at home, I'm like, hey, do you mind if I go? And he's like, go have fun, whatever. And then you and I kind of hit it off pretty quick, I think.
yeah, and some other people there didn't they weren't big fans of you.
Yeah.
But I
yeah.
knew you knew something, and I also knew you were going to become great, and you're still going to become great, and we're all going to become great.
Yeah.
But I've noticed a lot of changes since you became a student. How some of the things you've been doing too. And by the way, real quick, if you want to call in, 855-939-1137. 855-939-1137. But I got to ask a question for you. What is your biggest takeaway of becoming a student for Investor Schooling? Now, I realize, out there they're going to go, oh, she's going to give a canned answer. No, she's not. You need to know Dr. Deb, and Dr. Deb would never give a canned answer. So what is it?
I guess one of the things I really like about here is that I like having access to you. I think that's one of the reasons I joined the school is having access to you.
Cool.
So when I was first going through the different programs and I was trying to figure out what to do, and I think because we hit it off that time, I don't know, we just seemed to have like some kind of rapport. Like I could ask you a question and you would tell me whether I wanted to hear the answer or not. You would tell me how it is, and that's one of the things I really appreciate about you, because I'm not one for drama and all that crap that goes along with that. So if I have a question, I can just learn from you. If I'm not sure about something, I can ask a question. And I think that's true about a lot of the students here. If, I was reaching out to one of our students because I'm thinking about building something from the ground up. And I'm reaching out to her because her and her husband build properties from the ground up. And I'm like, hey, can you help me? So it's nice because you can ask questions and not feel like a schmuck at the same time. So, and people are coming in new and they get so nervous. Well, I don't know anything. And it's like nobody knew anything when they started here. And I know tax liens and tax deed stuff really well, but I can tell you that there's a lot of stuff that I don't know and a lot of things that they didn't teach me right. So that really is what I get from working here and just from coming in. Plus the other thing too is that I really like the camaraderie of our students. Like we're friends. Like we went out last night to hang out with Paul, and a lot of the students came out to support him, and we're just friends. We go out and just have fun. Like I check out that property that I have, a couple hours away, and I have different students come with me, and they're like, oh, what's going on here? Or can I come with you and learn? And it's just neat because then we get to know each other better. We did some road trips with some of the girls, and we just have fun, and we just goof off and, drive away from gas stations with the stuff still plugged in. I mean, we just have fun and, and then we drink and goof off, and it's just fun. You get to meet a lot of friends here, which is
pretty, we are definitely not a formal place.
No, and what's great, what's great is like at the end of class on Mondays and Thursdays, there's like people standing outside for like an hour or two. And it's just like, and that's what we had to turn off the lights to say, get out because we want to go. You know what I mean? But then you end up talking to people for a half hour or an hour, or sometimes they're out there for like an hour and a half. And I'm like, all right, you guys got to leave because we got to go. So, and it's just cool because it's just very natural. It just happens very natural.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, if you want to take a class this Thursday, you can meet Dr. Deb as well. We'll be here on Thursday. Go to investorschooling.com and you can sign up for a complimentary class. And look, if you've never been here, I'm telling you, it's a totally different atmosphere. I don't even, people like show up and they don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And then they come in and they come into, it's a smaller classroom. It's not small, but it's a smaller classroom. It's not, it's not like a lecture style classroom.
Yeah.
And it's very informal and it is great. It's very professionally done. And everything we do, we teach professionally, but we have fun with it. Like even the other night, I did an ad hoc class on. I just asked the students what they wanted me to talk about, and an hour and a half later, I answered in depth a lot of great questions.
Yeah.
One of them was how to buy houses in IRAs. Another one was how to actually find houses, And then there was another one, I can't remember what it was, but
I think that's one of the things that's nice is it's not a scripted class. So it's like if you have a question, you can ask your question and get an answer right away instead of having to wait or watch a video or something like that. It's like, hey, I'm really stuck on this. Can you help me with this? And, and if it's not you answering it, lots of times it's the students because they've had their own experiences and said, hey, do this or don't do this. Or lots of times you'll actually learn from the other students what not to do because they ran into this in the past. And, here's something that will help you, and even we have some of the students that will back other students with different projects that they have. It's like, hey, we have a couple contractors here. And I know when, I'm the one where the car went through the house, that was me. So I remember calling that night and I called one of our students who I knew was a carpenter. And I'm like, I really need your help. I need you to come and bring wood, and shore up my house. And within half hour, I had 7 trucks out front, a bunch of contractors out there, and everybody was helping me out because we're friends and we're a community. And it was just really great. So, and I could not have done that anywhere else if it wasn't for Investor Schooling.
Yeah, so she brushed over it really quickly. So for you guys who were first-time listeners or didn't listen to the show, we talked about Dr. Deb. A car went through the front of her house one night. So she was here and she was about to go on stage and do a presentation. I can't remember what it was on, and all of a sudden, I'm there and I actually, I'm funny because I actually said I'm looking over at Paul and I say, I'm running out on time. I'm running over time, and I see Paul go, "No, you got plenty of time. No, you got plenty of time." I'm like, what are you talking about? And I look around, and I don't even see you because I didn't even know you were gone.
Yeah, I jetted out. So I was actually doing a presentation on money mindset that night.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was going to do money mindset, and then my husband calls me, which is just unusual because he knows not to call me during class. And I'm like, and I did that automatic message, I can't talk right now. And I texted him, I'm like, what's going on? Not to call me. What's up? He's like, call me. He's like, no, now, which is very unusual for him. And then I call up, I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, there's a car in our house. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, there is a car in our house. I'm like, okay, I'm on my way. And I jetted out, I just ran out and I got there actually before the police did because I live around the corner. And I pulled in and the police were pulling in right behind me. So that was an interesting night.
And then you were saying, and just to reiterate what you said, because you knew so many people from this school, you had, what did your neighbor say? I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh, the neighbor comes over and he's like, who the hell do you know to have so many people here so quick? He was just like, who are you and who do you know? And what's great is it's usually my husband who has all the friends who help out, and it was me because I'm like, I need this contract. I'm telling you, we must have had 6 contractors out within half hour and a bunch of trucks out front. We had the lighting. We had a public adjuster out. It was just insane. You know what I mean? It was just, even the police were like, what's going on? And it was just crazy because they were shoring everything up. They had the saw there. They were at all the wood there. It was really great.
That's awesome.
And they had a new mailbox up for us the next day. It was just crazy. So it was crazy. It was all because of everybody here I know at the school.
And the funny part is your house still isn't fixed.
Not even started.
Right, and that's not our fault. Or
No.
I should say not our fault, but not the student's fault. It's because the insurance company is giving you a hard time.
Yeah, insurance is giving us a hard time.
And then I told you I'm going to take control of that, right?
Are you going to do it for me?
No, I'll call the insurance company for you.
All right.
I don't take things lightly.
I would be happy if you did it. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I make people move. I make people do their thing.
Our big thing is that we really just want a front door. I can't even.
Isn't that crazy?
I just want a front door. I just want to walk in a front door.
Yeah, but you have structural damage to the house, isn't it? Didn't you were telling me that?
Yeah.
So there may be an issue where you could put a front door on, but you may have to take it back off and put it back on.
Yeah, it would actually be a front door in the wood. It wouldn't even be a real front door.
Yeah, I got you.
I just want to walk in. So we've been living there for 5 years, and we've never used the garage more than we have in the last 2 months, just coming in and out of the house. So
right.
it's just it's crazy.
That's a shame.
Yeah, but whatever.
Cool. A couple of people online saying hi. We got Bill saying hi. There's some guy named Phil saying hi. Not the other Phil. Some guy named Phil. Do you know a guy named Phil?
I know a guy named Phil.
Who's that?
He's my hubby.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
your hubby's name's Phil?
My hubby's name's Phil.
I'm sorry for that.
It's funny because my sister is married to a Phil, and then she had a son. His name is Phil, and then I married a Phil. So there's lots of Phils in our house.
So that makes you pretty filthy.
Yeah, it's just of all the names when I met him, I'm like, dude, did it have to be Phil? But whatever.
I said the same thing. Now every time I got to mention Phil, I got to think of a different Phil.
I know.
Thanks a lot. But then I got my wife on there saying you're doing a great job too. Look at that.
Thank you, Linda. You're a sweetheart.
And by the way, if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, feel free to leave a message. like Glenn just did. He said, "Hey guys, great show." All right, listen guys. So if you're out there and you want to call us about anything that has to do with anything, Deb, I'm gonna ask Deb about a couple of questions about tax liens in a couple of minutes. But if you want to call 855-939-1137, 855-939-1137, you can ask us anything, whether we're talking about it or anything about money or anything about anything that has to do with anything that has to do with anything, because we'll be able to answer that or we won't.
Well, I'll answer what I can, and if not, I ship it off to Larry. So that's what I do. That works out better.
All right. So talk to me about tax liens. So what are tax liens?
So everybody confuses tax liens and tax deeds, and you do the same thing. It makes me crazy.
I do it all the time.
I know, yeah. So there's not really a whole lot of difference in terms of the research that you do for them. The research is exactly the same. But liens are, how if you have a house, you have to pay taxes on it. You pay them, quarterly or every 6 months or something? I don't know, whatever.
Oh, I got a funny story for you about taxes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so if you don't pay your taxes, you'll notice that there's like a 10% fee in the bottom, or there's a penalty fee.
Right. So there's 2% if you pay it early. You get 2% discount if you pay it early.
Right.
Then there's the on-time payment, and then there's the 10% penalty after that. Right.
Right. So the whole idea is that the county uses that money to pay for school buses, to pay for roads, to pay for the police, to pay for anything that's kind of community related. So they really do need that money. So when you're not paying it, they're kind of short to do some of those things. But when you don't pay it enough, those liens actually go up for sale, and you can buy those liens. You can
so
go
basically,
to a
if I have a house that I didn't pay my taxes on, eventually, the local government puts the tax lien. So basically, let's say I owe $10,000 in taxes.
Right.
So that $10,000 is liened on my property, and then they can actually sell that $10,000 debt to somebody else.
Right.
And that's what you do. You buy those debts.
Right. Right. So then if it happens over a couple years, and you buy the same one every year, at some point you can foreclose on it. So there's tax lien states and tax deed states, and there's dual states, and there's redeemable deeds, and blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch.
That's cool, but I want to say, because you got to remember that you got this all in your head. You got this all in your head, and you're like, boom, 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 boom.
Right.
Let's get some people to
way.
understand it. So
okay.
You said a minute ago, you said that it takes, you have to keep buying them every year. So in other words, each year that you don't pay that taxes, that's a separate debt, right? So,
right.
So
right.
if somebody doesn't pay somebody didn't pay their taxes in 2020, that's a debt. So the tax lien is a 2020 debt. Then 2021, if they didn't pay their taxes, that's another debt.
Right, because you have to pay them every single year.
Right, so the 2021 can be sold to me. The 2021 one can be sold to you.
Right.
The 2022 one can be sold to somebody else.
Right.
So each one of us owns one of the tax liens.
Right.
Okay, and then what happens with that? So now I have this bet I paid, whatever, let's say I paid, I don't know, $11,000 for it, even though it's a $10,000 debt, and I know there's reasons that I would pay that $11,000, but let's say I paid $11,000 for that debt. Why would I want to buy that debt?
Because of that penalty, you're going to get an interest back on that. So it's a way to invest. So say you owe $10,000, but there's whatever percent. So when that person finally does pay that back, then you're going to get the original money you spent plus interest on that. So it's a way to invest and it's a higher percentage than what you'll get at the bank. So
what's a typical percentage rate that people pay? That counties pay for that?
So it depends. It depends on the county, because tax liens and deeds are very county specific. It could be anywhere from 9 to 36%.
36%?
Yeah, but
wow.
The problem
That's
is
per year, right?
Yes,
yeah.
But the problem is that when you're buying it at an auction, you're bidding down the interest. So odds are it really won't be 36. It might be going down to 20 or 10, or it depends on. You have to figure out what kind of investor you want to be and say, when you hit this bottom limit, that's it, I'm out. So you have to figure out what percent you're willing to go to, and then get out when you're done.
Okay, so let's say right now I'm at an auction, okay, and somebody owes $10,000, and I'm bidding against you, for example, right?
Yeah.
So what would be the opening bid? Would be
the amount of usually it's the amount of taxes that are owed.
So $10,000 is the number. So the opening bid, I'm opening bid $10,000. Your bid would be what?
Well, no, because I
just want to know.
No, because
would you bid $10,500?
No, you would be bidding down.
Okay.
That's why I'm confused, because you're not bidding $10,000. You're bidding on the interest.
So it would be, for example, if it's $10,000, is 18% interest, then it would be $11,800.
Right. So you would say the interest was 18%, then I would bid 17%. Then you'd bid 16, then I'd bid 15.
But then I still have to pay the $10,000 to buy the lien.
Right.
So now that I've done that, so what am I doing? I'm paying the 10,000 plus the 18.
No, you're paying just the 10,000.
Okay.
Okay, but when that person decides to pay it back, they have to pay that 10,000 plus that percentage back, and that's where you're making your money. You're getting money on the percentage back.
Okay, I got it.
So you're bidding down. So with liens, you're bidding down interest.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. So with deeds, it's totally different.
Okay.
But with liens, you're bidding down interest. That's
Okay.
why you have to know when you hit X percent, that's it, you're done and you're out because it's not worth the money that you're going to wait to make. Plus, the other thing you have to wait,
Right.
you know,
have to wait
12
until they sell the house, or until
Or
the
they
house
pay.
gets foreclosed on, or until they pay, right?
or until they pay. So that could be, a year, that could be 3 years.
Now,
So-
what if this property is worth $300,000 and there's a $500,000 mortgage on it? Eventually, the bank is going to come after these people too, right?
So tax liens and tax deeds are first position. They come in front of a mortgage. So they
in
have
other words,
to get
even
paid.
if the bank repossesses the house, or well, not, I should say foreclose on the house because it's not the same thing, but they foreclose on the house. Did
Taxes
they pay
get-
your taxes at the time they foreclose on the house, or do they pay your taxes at the time they sell it to somebody else?
They come before a mortgage. So when whatever gets paid first, the taxes have to get paid first, and then the mortgage will get
Gotcha.
paid. So taxes are always first. That's why you really need to do your homework with this kind of stuff. You have to know. And the other thing you have to know is who's actually paying the taxes. Is it the person who's paying the taxes, or is it the mortgage company who's paying the taxes?
gotcha.
So you have to be aware of that kind of stuff.
So it can be very profitable. Now, what happens? So you alluded to something earlier. Said, let's say you bought the first year's tax lien, the second year's tax lien, the third year's tax lien, and the fourth year's tax lien. You said you could personally foreclose on a house as well.
Yeah, it's usually 3 years, but you can. But that's the thing. So if you go to a tax sale 3 years in a row, you have to make sure to get that same house. If not, if I buy the first year and you buy second, I can go to you and say, hey, let me buy your tax lien, and then we agree to it, and then I own the second one. Because you need to be first position and own all 3 liens to be able to foreclose. Because if I own one and you own second, somebody else owns third, you can't foreclose because it's not the same person.
That's pretty cool. I like it. All right, so that's pretty cool. So that means that it's like everything else. It's a lot of work, right?
It's a lot of upfront work. Like once you do all the upfront work, then the rest is easy. Like the auction part is easy. It's all the upfront work you have to do.
All right, so you're looking. So you have 2 things here. One is you're making 18 or some certain percentage on your money, and the other one is you're eventually looking to buy the house. Now, let's talk about tax deeds, because I know you bought some houses by buying tax deeds. Now, how did that work?
So tax deeds and tax liens, remember, they're different and they're county specific, and then they kind of are state specific. So Pennsylvania is it's a dual state, but where I tend to go, I buy tax deeds. So they don't offer liens, they offer deeds. So when you're getting the deed, you're actually getting the house. So the opening bid is usually the amount that they owe in taxes. So say they owe $4,500 in taxes. Then you start the opening bid at $4,500, and then you're bidding with whoever else is in the room, and then whoever wins gets the actual property.
So some of these could be bid up pretty high, like a $4,500 lien could be $80,000.
Yeah.
So what happens to the difference?
The difference is as the owner of the house, you need to be able to know. It's called an overage, but you need to go and collect that money because the county is not allowed to keep that. So a lot of people make that business out of, oh, you have money and let me get it for you and give me a percentage.
Okay, so let's explain this. Let's make simple math. Let's say you bought the house for $50,000, but the tax lien was $10,000. There's now $40,000, which is an overage, which the county has. That $40,000.
They hold it.
They hold it in an escrow account, apparently, right?
They hold it.
Now,
yeah.
how long does the person who used to own the house have to come after that $40,000?
That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that they're entitled to it. So I don't think it goes away. I think that they're still entitled to it.
Right.
But they have to know enough to know to get it, because a lot of times they're literally losing their house, so they don't know about it. So and they don't know.
Yeah, and you
anything
would
about
think
the
that
sale.
somebody, because I've seen this before, you would think that somebody who has any equity in their house has gotten so many notices about this. They're about to lose their house. Why don't they just put the house up for sale?
Well, this is okay. So I know that one of the things that you teach us is go find out the story.
Right.
When it comes to tax deeds, we don't care about the story. It
Right, 'cause
doesn't
you're
matter.
not talking to the owner. You're
yeah.
bidding.
You're bidding. So who
Right.
cares? Who cares why they didn't pay, or
Right.
if they got a divorce, or somebody, like, who cares? It doesn't really matter. The point is that it's here, and let's try to get it. So it doesn't matter what the story is. So who cares, But a lot of people just don't know that they are entitled to this overage.
Sure.
So then,
Yeah, and I've seen that business too. We've had people come to us and talk talk to us about that business, which is they go find people who had their houses bought by people like you, and there was an overage.
Right.
And that overage is sitting there, and then these companies go out and say, hey, you had your house still in a tax lien. They may owe you money. Let's see if I can.
Tax
deed. Right. I know. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
That's so funny. In a tax deed sale, and they may owe you money. Let's try to get that for you.
Right, for a charge. Which
Right.
so I mean.
But so what? It's
Yeah.
you got somebody who's doing the work for them, and they didn't even know about it. So even if it's I know it'd be crazy to charge 50%, but even if somebody charged you 50%, 100% is nothing. Is a lot less than 50% of something.
No, I know. I guess I understand it. I just don't think it's ethical. Like I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I understand.
But
to charge 10 or 20%.
I still think it's unethical,
Okay.
but that's just
I don't
my
do
personal
it, but
opinion.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
I just think it's unethical. I couldn't do it.
Very cool.
But that's neat. So I like tax deeds. So because I'm greedy and I want the property, so then I get the property, and then So one thing to know is that at auction, say I won the sale, you can't go and knock on somebody's door and say, "Get the hell out! This is my property now." It doesn't really work that way. You have to wait until you get the actual deed in the mail, and
Right.
it usually takes about 3 months to do
But
that.
actually, so just to clarify that too, has that happened to you? We had to ask somebody to leave because there's a process to that.
Yes. So I had one that I bought, and there was people living in there, so that was, a problem. So it's kind of 50-50. It's nice to know if somebody's living in there because you know that everything works,
Right.
which is nice. And then
electric's on. The
the
toilets are
electric's
flushing,
on,
right?
the plumbing works,
Right.
everything, heat works, everything works. And so, but then you have to wait, and you have to do the eviction process and try to work stuff out and blah, blah, blah. But when it's empty, it's nice because you could just walk in and start working, But then odds are you're going to have plumbing issues because it's been sitting a while
Right.
around, or you might have a window leak, or you might have a roof leaking. So then you don't know what's going on. And
Animal
it's,
infestation.
yeah, or
yeah.
I had squirrels in one property. It's just like, really? So, and then I had another one, people were living in there and they were really upset, and it's just like, look, I have nothing to do with this. I just bought the property. Let's try to work something out.
What did you do with the people working in there? I mean, there's a lot of different choices. I'm just curious what your story was.
So they were very angry because I guess the mother is the one who owned it, and the daughter was living there, and the daughter was living there with her boyfriend, who was like a drunk, and then she had her kids taken away. So there was all kinds of drama. So we offered them rent to live there for a while. We didn't offer them that. We asked them to pay rent, and then they were okay with it for a while. And then there was a problem with the oil heater, so I wanted to get in there to fix it, but they wouldn't let us in because he was very aggressive. And I'm like, I wouldn't go in there without my gun because he was just an incredibly
Wow.
aggressive man. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I don't need this. And then we started the eviction process and kicked them out.
Okay, yeah, so it's interesting. So you had them sign a lease, right?
Yes, they were.
Right. So what you said was really interesting. So most people don't know this. You went through the eviction process, which is correct because you had them sign a lease.
Right.
But if they had not signed a lease from day one, or even if you did it verbally, you would have to go through something called ejection,
Right.
which is not the same thing as eviction.
So I actually had to do an injection for a different property I bought. So this other property was a condo out in Philly, and the girl who was there with, I don't know, 7 kids or something. It was some unreal thing, and she was dating the guy who owned the property, so there was no lease or anything in place. And then I tried to give her cash for keys, and that didn't work. And one of the bathrooms, I mean, it was just like a complete mess. It took me over a year to get this piece of garbage out. And I say that nicely, but I had to go through the ejection process
Right.
to get her out. And then it was just a complete and total mess. But I mean, it's worth it because the property is doing well and it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah, and
but
what'd you pay for that property?
I paid $88,000 for that.
And what do you think it's worth now?
$225.
That's not a bad return.
No, not at all.
And you're also renting it, right?
And I'm renting it
And
out.
what do you get collecting rent on that?
$19.50.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you really made money on that.
I made money on that one.
Really nice deal. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And-
incredible. So
Yeah.
those are one of those things. So this is the kind of stuff that we teach people how to do. But
Yeah.
you did that based on tax deed sale. That's fantastic.
This was all before I came to the school.
Right.
Before I knew you. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot.
Well, no, I mean, like, I ended
what
up
are you trying
switching.
to do? Discredit us now?
I'm just saying that I did come with some knowledge. But
No,
I
you
mean,
did.
how I
That's what. That,
yeah, but I did.
yeah.
I'll be honest and say that I bought them all wrong, right? Because I bought
That's
them
right.
all in an LLC, which is not what I should have done. And when I met
Well,
you, I
there's
switched everything
parts
over.
of that are true. So we teach people by trust, but your situation, because you bought it in your
IRA.
right? You bought it in your retirement plan. Putting an LLC is not a bad idea. There's just other ways to do it.
Right.
But you didn't do. I mean, first of all, we teach people to buy and trust, not LLCs. if people buying properties in LLCs, it's still a better play than buying it in their own name. That's the worst play.
Yeah.
So if anybody buys a property and they buy a property in their own name, besides their I'm not talking about their primary residence. Look, I personally don't own anything. I don't even own my primary residence.
Right.
It's in a trust as well. But if any other property besides your primary residence is in your own name, you could be in a lot of trouble if something bad happens.
Yeah.
So at least it's isolated from you. So you're okay with it.
It is isolated. And actually, I did come to you about how to get rid of her because I was at my wit's end and I didn't know what to do, and we were trying all different kinds of things, and she was just nasty.
Yeah.
nasty.
I taught you about the ejection process.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You told me all about that and how to get rid of that, and it was just, she was. So any of you who know me, I always refer to her as the psycho bitch. This is the psycho bitch property, and she was just so difficult, just psycho bitch. So it was just kind of crazy, but no. So it worked out. But no, it's rented. It's doing well. The lady just signed up for her second year. She's a teacher who's living there. It's a gated community. It's a nice little condo.
That's great. I'm actually excited that you have it.
Yeah.
All right, real quick, if anybody wants to give us a call, 855-939-1137, 855-939-1137. You can also sign up for a class this Thursday at investorschooling.com. That's investorschooling.com. And we're going to take a quick break, and we'll talk about this some more on the other side. This is Larry.
All right.
Right. Welcome back to Investor Schooling Live. I am Larry Steinhouse. I am the CEO of Investor Schooling. I am here with one of our student liaisons, Dr. Deb Anderson. It's so cool to call you doctor.
I like it when you call me doctor.
It's just cool because, hey, look, we are so important that we have doctors working for us.
There you go.
Isn't that important?
Yeah, I have it on my license plate. It says Dr. Deb.
That's right, Dr. Deb. Yeah. So if you ever see a license plate that says Dr. Deb,
it's me.
You know that if don't run from her because she'll eject you or evict you.
That's right.
So speaking of ejection and eviction, let's have a conversation real quick about landlording.
Okay.
And how to be a good landlord.
Okay.
Now, a couple of things that happen. Now, I always say this, and I don't know if you agree with this statement, but I always say there are no such thing as bad tenants. There are only bad landlords.
All right. So I'll tell you that I have followed your guidance in terms of finding tenants.
Uh-huh.
And that has helped tremendously,
Mm-hmm.
But if I knew about that one where I had to evict her,
right,
she would never have been a tenant.
Yeah, of course.
So, and I do have one, like some of my tenants now, I always say, if you're good to me, I'll be good to you. That's what I say to them, and then I give them the whole spiel. Rent's due on the 1st. It's late on the 2nd. Late fee on the 5th, and then I kick you out on the 15th. And a couple.
So I'm going to tell you how I say it because I know.
Well, I don't say it quite like that.
Do you say it the way I say it?
Yeah, I say it the way you say it.
Go ahead, do it because I think it's important that you practice it.
Or maybe I don't say it the way you say it. I don't know. How do you say it? And
so
I'll see if I.
Here's how it works.
Because you can put me on the spot. I don't know if I can do it on the spot.
That's right. It happens all the time. So when I'm taking the application, or when I'm giving them, or I should say, when I'm giving them the keys, because I say it twice, sometimes 3 times.
Okay.
Hey Deb, just so you know, the rent's due on the 1st. On the 2nd, it's late.
Oh, with the flowers. Yes,
right.
I say
Well,
it.
yeah,
Okay. Yes.
The rent's due on the 1st. On the 2nd, it's late. On the 5th, it's $150 late fee. And on the 15th, I file for eviction. Now, please, if you get into a car accident or something happens, you got the flu, or I actually say if you have COVID and you're in the hospital, please give me a call. I'm going to send you flowers, but I'm still filing for eviction. Do we understand each other? And when I say that, I look for their reaction.
Yeah.
Do we understand each other? And when their reaction is everything, because you could watch them. You can watch them go, gulp, they swallow them like, oh, and you could tell there's a problem. But the funniest is some of the things that people say. I actually had somebody say, oh, well, my other landlord didn't file for 2 months. And I'm like, have a nice day, goodbye.
Yeah.
I'm not renting to you. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Womp womp.
Yeah, exactly. Glenn will come in every once in a while with his little sound effects.
I do say it the way you do, but I just say if you're in the hospital, let me know. But I'm still filing on the 15th. So
yeah, exactly.
I do say that. So
right.
I remember saying it to one of my tenant, I was looking at them, and he's like, okay, no problem. Like,
right.
He was just like, all right, I understand. And I'm like, all right, let's sign the paperwork. You know
right.
what I mean? So, and a couple people are like, and they just give me this look and walk away. And I'm like, this isn't for, or they're like, yeah, this isn't, I'm like, all right. So, but yeah, one application, I do the same thing that you taught us. And usually when I go to get tenants in, I listen to the video just on the way down, just to make sure it's fresh in my head. Cause some of the properties I have are like 2 hours away. So I listen to it on the way down and I'm like, all right, I say this. Okay. I say this. All right. I got my paperwork. All right. It's all in my head. So, but that has helped a lot. So I don't know if I agree with the bad tenants. I mean, I see where you're going. It's just because you're making sure that you're getting quality tenants. So that's why the landlords on this.
So here's the thing, right? So no such thing as bad tenants, only bad landlords.
Okay.
But then everybody will say to me, well, I had a bad tenant once, right? And then you'll hear a story about whatever it was. I don't care. They started out, and the first 3 months they paid on time, and then they stopped paying. They lost their job, or blah 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 blah. And it took me 3 years to get rid of them. Well, that's not a bad tenant. That's a bad landlord.
Okay.
And it all starts with, did you tell them what their expectations was? Rent's due on the 1st, and 2nd it's late, and 5th it's $150 late fee, and the 15th I file for eviction. Did you tell them the expectation? And if you did you then follow through on that expectation?
Okay.
And this is what's going to happen. And I'm going to tell you, it happens almost every time. I don't know if you've rented enough of them since I taught you this that you've seen this, but I'm curious to see if it happened. This is what happens. The first month they pay the rent on time.
Yeah.
The second month it comes in usually around the 3rd, and the third month it usually comes in right on the 5th, and then the following month it comes in the 6th or the 7th.
I've gotten, I'm running late this month, and I'm like, well, the late fee is $150, you know what I mean? And I still file for the 15th on the 15th. Like,
right.
I make it really clear.
And then it never late again, right?
And no, they've never been late again.
That's right, because you didn't
really
say,
clear.
okay. No, it's fine. It's okay. Just understand the late fee. If I don't have it by the 5th, it's the late fee of $150.
Yeah.
And when you follow through with that, they will not be late. Now, here's another thing, too. You'll have someone who will send you the rent on the 7th, and they'll send it to you without the late fee, because even after you talk to them, you're going to send them immediate email or text, doesn't matter, or letter, and you're going to say, thank you very much for the rent. However, the late fee is still due.
Yeah.
And if you don't pay the late fee by the 1st, and you only give me next month's rent, the first $150 of next month's rent goes towards the late fee, and that would make your rent late again.
So I think I only that happened once where they gave me the $150, but it was still late, and then the next month it was still late. And I'm like, I charge them again for the $150 late fee. Yeah. So I'm like, it keeps racking up there, because I do have one tenant where she's paid the late fee maybe 2 or 3 times, and I'm like,
yeah, it's very rare, but they'll do it, and they know it. And it's funny because then you'll get the check on the 7th or 8th, or they'll send you a text message, listen, I'm running late this month. I will have the late fee, and it will be paid by the 8th. And then I'll just remind them, just make sure I get it by the 15th, because if not, I'm going to be filed for eviction.
Yeah, so I did have that. And the one lady actually, she wrote me on the 14th because she paid me most of the rent. And I'm like, I'm coming down on, because it was the 14th, so the earliest I could file was that following Monday. And I'm like, I'm filing on this day. I'm making sure you're aware. And then I got a wire, like, within a couple hours. So
Yeah, it's funny, because I've taken over a couple of properties from other people I bought the properties from, and they had tenants. And it's funny because they always say, oh, I'm selling the property because I hate the tenants and never pay on time. I've rehabilitated those tenants within 3 months.
So here's a question I have for you. So when you're buying a property and they have tenants in there, you have to stay with the lease, right? Or do you do a new lease? Or how does that work?
It depends on the lease. So it's a really good question. The lease itself will tell the tenant whether their lease is still good if the property is sold to someone else.
Okay. So the reason I ask is because I usually manage mine myself, but I have one, and I just fired the management company because they're making me crazy and they're costing me a fortune and they're just not very good. So they're ending as of June 30th.
The lease ends? Oh, the property manager
The property manager ends because they need 30 days notice, and I fired them. So I guess I have to just read through the lease to see.
Yeah, you should have gotten a copy of the lease from the property manager.
Right, I have a copy of the lease.
Now, are you selling that property?
No, I'm keeping it.
Okay, so then I'm not sure what your question is. Is your question?
So the lease is actually made out to the management company, not to me.
I knew you were going to say that. So that's another thing that I don't like.
Okay.
When management companies do that, now, they kind of lock you in. But you're going to need to, so the lease should say and/or signs.
Okay.
Just read the lease, because if it doesn't, now you're right. The management company is supposed to be the lessor, which means that the lessee is supposed to pay it to the management company. Even though you're firing the management company, the tenant still thinks that they've rented from the management company. So you need to get an estoppel agreement between the management company, the tenant, and you that says that the rent now goes to you and you're now the management. You understand?
No, you lost me.
Okay, so it's a contract. It's called a estoppel agreement. You have to get
Estoppel?
Estoppel, ESTOPLE.
Okay.
You have to get that signed, and you have to whatever the instructions are that says but the lease continues. Everything else is the same. It's just that the lessor is now you.
Okay.
And instead of the management company. So make sure you do that. You'll see me. See, this is another reason why Deb loves sitting here.
I always have a question because you say something. I'm like, oh, what do I do here? So this is perfect because I meant to ask you about this and I wasn't even sure about how to do that. Okay, so I need to do that then.
So there's somebody online, Mary, says, "Hey Deb, it's Mary from Noggles, Utah event. Miss you."
Hey Mary, how are you?
So Mary, you can call in 855-939-1137, 855-939-1137, and you better call in quick because we only got about 15 more minutes to the show. 855-939-1137 if you want to say hello to Dr. Deb and ask her any questions. And anybody else can call in too, 855-939-1137. So here's a question for you.
Yeah.
So what's a great piece of advice that you would give a newbie real estate investor?
I'd say figure out what type of investing you want to do.
Yeah, it's a good one. So when you say that, what are you trying to say to them?
There's so many different types of real estate investing, and I think people get caught up with, oh, I want to do wholesaling because that's the best way. So, and not that it's not a good way. It's just it's a different type of work, right? So I was never interested in wholesaling because I don't care. I just don't care.
Right. So wholesaling, you make $10,000-$15,000 per transaction, real quick. But you don't. She's smiling because Mary just said you're awesome.
She's sweet. Yeah. Very sweet. So no, I'd say because a couple people ask me this, and they say, at the school we have so many things, and my advice is to them is pick one thing and get to know it really well, and then move on. So if you're interested in wholesaling, then do wholesaling and then get really good at it and then move on to something else. So I was never interested. I know wholesaling, you can make big chunks of money, but the work for me, the type of work, I'm just not interested in doing it, right? So and the liens and deeds, the only reason I was interested in it is because I heard about it like 20 years ago when I used to work at a hospital for 16 years at night. And I was reading this book and I was reading about it and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then I never did anything with it. And then I got a letter in the mail and I'm like, hey, this stuff is still around. And then I'm finding out it's been around for however, like 100 whatever years or something. And I'm like, let me look into this more because clearly God is sending me some kind of sign that I need to look into
sure.
it, right? So that's why I was really interested in the liens and deeds, and then I understood it, and then that's what I was focusing on, and then now I'm doing notes because I'm really interested in that. But I don't have a lot of interested in the wholesaling. I don't have a lot of interested in some of the other ways that you buy properties. I mean, I'm kind of interested in the subject too, so I think I'll pursue that, which is kind of funny because it's on the opposite side of the
Right.
note investing.
Sure.
So it's so maybe I can take it from both sides. But some of the other things I'm just not really interested in. So I would say find what you're interested in and focus on that, and whatever type of investing that is. So some people are really into the stock market and really are good at it, then stick to it. If you're good at something, then just do it really well and move on. But I wouldn't try to do 5 different things at once because it's not going to work. I have a colleague of mine, she does that land investing.
Mm-hmm.
She's killing it. She's killing it doing land investing. And
That's
I'm
great.
like,
Wow. See, it's funny because I'm not a land investor.
Okay.
Now, if she's investing in land, is she renting the land after she buys it,
No,
or is she just sitting on it?
She's reselling it. She's
Okay.
getting it at a really big discount
Right.
and selling it to
it's
somebody
okay.
else.
Yeah, so that's wholesaling.
Okay.
It's
So
just a different form of wholesaling. It's land wholesaling, but that's
Yeah.
fine. But a lot of times it's funny because a lot of times we'll have people who are buying land and they think land's a good investment. Land is not a good investment unless you're doing that or unless you have a plan to build on it.
Yeah.
There are people who buy land, like they'll buy land now and they'll pay $100,000 for a lot and they'll sell it 5 years from now, and if they're lucky they'll get what they paid for it.
right. So,
and they pay taxes on it the whole time, and they
Right.
cut the grass the whole time, so I'm not a big fan.
So that's what I'm saying. Just kind of really learn it before you kind of get into it, because it's so easy to make mistakes in investing if you don't know what you're doing. That's why you really need to get some education to figure out what you're doing. Like I learned how to do the tax liens and deeds, and I know it really, really, really well. You know what I mean? And then I started learning about all the trusts and more about the Roth IRAs and the IRAs and all the other stuff that we teach here from you. You know what I mean? Just kind of coming and showing up and talking to other students. So I mean, I'm telling you, like, there's so much out there, and there's so many different ways to do it wrong, and I've made so many really expensive mistakes.
Oh yeah.
So, but I mean, you learn. But I mean, I would like to not have to drop $50,000 to make a mistake, and then just do it the right way the first time out. So, I think just if you're gonna invest, learn whatever it is that you're doing, and learn from somebody who actually knows what they're doing. So the one thing that I think is really important is I really believe in mentorship. So I have you, Larry, as a mentor. I have, a couple other people that I mentor with.
Yeah.
And people, it's not like a one-size-fits-all mentorship. I know when I was working on my PhD, I interviewed different people to see who would be a good fit for me. But I have different mentors for different things, because you're really good when it comes to with all the taxes and stuff for the school and the trust, and that's great. But you're not great when it comes to the note investing, so that's why I talk to Paige.
Exactly right.
Right. And then I have a colleague of mine who is an educational architect, and he's helping me expand my medical writing business so I can not have to do it so much, and I can focus more on investing. So he mentors me with that. So I know people are like, oh, but it costs money, but you're paying for it, an education that is invaluable. So I think that you really need to consider getting help and realize that you need help from somebody, and try not to do it alone, because when you do it alone, you make a mistake and it costs you a fortune, and then you get discouraged, which is not the smartest thing to do. So
Yeah, so I we often say this to students in the audience. We always say the cost of our school is a hell of a lot less than your first mistake, and it's funny because everyone who comes to us, they always come to us. Well, I did this, and this is what happened, and it's always something that they lost money on. I mean, we have people that come in, and anybody here trading, they're brand new people. We've never seen them before, and we say, hey, raise your hand. Have you ever traded stock options? And what's my first question? My first question is, how much money have you lost?
Yeah.
It's not have you made money or have you lost money. It's how much money have you lost?
Yeah.
And they always go a lot.
yeah.
Because it happens.
I think that was one of my frustrations. So where I learned how to do the tax liens and deeds, they show you how to get that property. They show you, like, you really, really know it. But they didn't show me how to buy it right, and they didn't show me how to do any of the calculations right, and they didn't show me how to do any of the comps right. And there was so many things that I did wrong from that program that it was just like, and then I came here and had to spend all that money to get it corrected so that I'm safe.
Yeah,
So-
but you're doing really well, especially in that business. You're doing really well with the
the
houses that
taxes.
you have now.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
we've
that's what I mean.
helped you with it.
I know how to buy them. I know how to find them. I know how to do the research. I know that stuff really, really well. Like, I really, really know it well. So, and I thank them for that. But I mean, in terms of how to buy it and what to do and how to get rid of people and all that stuff, I learned all that here. I did not learn any of that there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's a different class. I mean, I've been to their, so we as a school, sometimes I take the senior people like yourself, and we go. And
I'm a senior person. So
well, there's only 3 of us now.
I guess we're all senior people now.
No, so we go, so we'll go and we'll sit in other people's classes, and we don't do it to be jerks about it. We actually do it. Matter of fact, if you guys listened to 2 weeks ago when I had Trevor Evans, that was how I met Trevor. Was I actually sat in his class, and he even said I was a gentleman about it. And I came up to him after. I said, look, we're doing our own thing, but I don't poach the students. I go there because one thing, I want to listen, I want to learn, and I also want to see if there's when people come up to me and they come up to some of our competitors and they've been to their class, they go, that place is a ripoff. And, I want to know if their place really is a ripoff, because a lot of times it's not, So there are people in our space. Now, we do something completely different. I mean, you talked about a mentorship. You're mentoring with me. When you go to some of the other places, you're not mentoring with the people who actually did the work. You're mentoring with someone who's been a coach for 3 months and reads a book and reads a scripted answer to the questions, which I hate.
Right.
And you're paying a lot of money for that, and I just hate that.
Yeah.
So our system is, you're talking to me, you're talking to Deb. So if you're talking about tax liens, and I had this the other day, you had talked about a student who reached out to you, and she was on the phone with me. She was in the middle of a coaching class with me. I was doing a one-on-one coaching with her, and she said, hey, I want to know something about tax liens. And I said, that's Deb. Talk to Deb, make an appointment with Deb, and as her coach, you would be coaching with her directly. Make an appointment with her, and she'll talk to you about it. Because again, I can't do it. I just can't do it without, if I don't know something, I got to give somebody else to do it. So Mary also says, is this the same Mary? Yeah.
Yes, same Mary.
She says, you're highly recommended from Tabitha and Scott in New Jersey, and we also met in Utah. They met you. So Tabitha and Scott were in Utah? I guess they were.
Oh, I think I remember Tabitha.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I remember. I think I remember Tabitha. She had like long black hair, I think. If I'm thinking of the right person.
I just like read that. I'm like, I'm realizing we're on the radio and I'm having a thought. But so that's interesting. So yeah, Mary, so you should stop by and you should find out more. And you could even take classes online. So for people who are far away, we do have classes online. For people who are close, like Philadelphia and New Jersey, any Delaware, they come into the class. And then if they wanted to, they can actually take their classes online. After they become a student, we like to have them come into the office first, just to meet us, just to experience us, and let them know that that's always available too.
So the one thing I would say though too is that, and I've heard it a lot from the students, and I feel it too. Like you walk in the door and you have this like air of positivity. Like there's just so much energy when you walk in the door. Like a lot of people just feel reinvigorated and they feel like they're with other people who are doing things. So I listen to you. I did the online and I live around the corner and I'm like, yeah, this sucks. You know what I mean? And I ended up just coming in, but it's just like you really feel this. Like I can't even explain it. Like everybody's just happy and they're excited to see each other, and then they start chatting, and even people who just walk in, they're like, oh, this is like a different environment. You know what I mean? And it's just so positive, and so you just feel that energy when you walk in the door, and it's just and it happens every week. It's really a pretty cool thing. Actually,
we are very entertaining too.
We are very entertaining. So yeah.
So to me, it's a production. To me, it's a show. We're putting on a show, and I actually say, it's funny because we'll be in meetings. We're talking about the presentation last night. So how did the show go last night? We don't even call it, we don't even call it a presentation. We call it a show. How did the show go last night? And it's funny because we consider it a show. Everything from the beginning where Deb usually comes in and introduces everybody, to the jokes that are told during the presentation, to some of the political comments that are made.
Yeah, and then we yell at Larry when he goes too far.
Yeah, right.
We're like, Larry, that was a good one.
Every once in a while. Like,
you must yell a lot.
What's that, Glenn?
You must yell a lot.
Yeah.
Every now and then we're like, that wasn't a good joke, Larry. Every now and then.
She didn't like my one joke. I can't remember which one it was, about Trump and Biden, the difference between the two of them.
There was always some kind of funky comment or something.
I'm not sure if I could say that joke on the air, so I'm not going to say it.
But I'm the one who always puts Larry back on track. Because when you see him like going off target, I'm like, Larry, what were we were talking about? I'll always ask him like random questions so that I'm like, oh, I need a question. I need an answer on this. Like, help me right now. So just to get him back on track. So
yeah, and then of course the stock option consultant will come out, and the stock option consultant is extremely entertaining. And speaking of the stock option consultant, we're nearing that time again. So real quick, let's talk a little bit about the stock market. Hold on a second.
Stock option consultant. Stock consultant.
Okay, you guys want to know about the stock market this week? You ready? I hate the stock market. I'm done. I'm not even going to teach it anymore. That's how bad it is. No, that's not true. But it really was. It was horrible. And there's a bunch of stock bargains out there. The real question is, when are these bargains going to become reality? And it's a little bit tough right now. We've had some really bad weeks, as you know.
I bought CCL at 9.
Yeah, I bought CCL at 9. So I've been telling you guys that travel stocks are the play, and every week that I've been telling you travel stocks are the play, they've gone down another 10% every week. I'm not talking about 10% since I've been telling you every week. So the last time I started telling you guys the travel stocks were a play, Carnival Cruise Lines was around 15, and it closed the other day at 875. That's insanity. But at the same time, I've been telling you guys, buy it. But I've also been telling everybody to buy the stock more than the stock option because it's a really good play, especially at 955, even at 955, anything under 10. It closed the other day under 10. And look, it may not come back next month. And unfortunately, it won't. I'm going to lose some money in stock options because of that. But I have tons of shares of Carnival Cruise Line, the stock itself. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell covered calls on those as time goes by. So I'm going to make, I've already calculated when the stock hits 15, which it will, I'm going to be up in the stock alone. I'm going to be up something like $20,000 or $30,000, and then I'm going to sell the covered calls and make another $20,000. So it'll be a great play. I just have to wait for it. So it's not like I'm not losing the money. Just because I haven't sold it, I have time to wait. Stock options, I wouldn't have time to wait on it.
Do you think it's going to go back up to 30 or 40 CCL or no?
Oh, it'll eventually go to 30 or 40. It's just a matter of whether I'm going to wait that long or not. That's all.
Okay.
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind it'll go back to 30 or 40. It just may take 2 years.
Okay.
So if it takes 2 years, that's fine because who cares? The money's there. That's why the stock option right now first of all, if you get a $10 strike on the stock option in CCL, it's a fantastic play. It's one of the greatest plays ever. But Meta is also a good play in the 160s. Apple's a good play in the 120s. So everything is all good plays. But buy the stock right now. Kind of back off the stock option just a little bit because the stock options are making me a little nervous right now because I actually believe the stock market's going to go down. Now, we have something that we teach that's called the dead zone, and we're at the end of the dead zone, which means that stocks are actually going to go up the next 6 weeks. So watch that. You'll actually see the stock going up the next few weeks. I believe the Dow will hit 31,000 to 32,000 again. We're not going to see 33,000 again probably for another 3 years. Because I think we're done. I'm going to start moving down. But the next 6 weeks, the stock market's going to go up. But then after that, it's going to go down. And I'm going to say that the stock market's probably going to end between 26 and 28 by the end of the year. All right. So if you guys want to come to Investor Schooling, go to investorschooling.com. And there you can learn about all the things we talked about. You can meet Dr. Deb. I want to thank Dr. Deb for being here today. You did an awesome job. Actually, it was great. I wish we had more time. I also want to thank our wonderful producer, Glenn Page, over at WPHT. And, of course, I want to thank our wonderful producer over here, Mike Kuiper, who I actually said his name the right way this time. So if you want, go to investorschooling.com. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on Thursday. Take care, everybody.